Hello and welcome to Urban Report. My guest today is Dr. Christine Salter, Director of the Center for Vibrant Health and Wellness in St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome to Urban Report, Dr. Salter.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's so good to have you here. May I call you Dr. Christine?
You may.
Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about obesity.
Yes.
And so many of us want to lose weight and keep it off.
Right.
Okay, let me just start with, why do people gain weight in the first place?
You know, there's lots of reasons for gaining weight. You can say it like a mathematical equation. Calories in, calories out. If they're around about the same, there's no weight gain or weight loss. If there's a lot more calories in or a lot more energy in and less out, you're going to gain weight. But it's not that simple though, because it's also about your metabolism and what's going on in the metabolism. There's something called a fat switch. And so sometimes with what we do with our metabolism, we switch that fat switch on and we gain weight and find it hard to actually lose the weight.
Now so for viewers who don't know what metabolism is, what is metabolism?
So the metabolism is the way that our body works. It's using the energy in the body. Okay.
Okay, and so there's a fat switch. There's a switch actually that turns on the ability or the tendency to store fat. Tell us about that.
So it's not a physical switch, it's a metabolic switch, and it all has to do with what we call the mitochondria in the cells, the energy, little organelles in the cells and how they function. Their ability to function and how many of them are there, and the different things that we do will change the level of those mitochondria. So it's not just simply calories in, calories out. The calories do count. So it's not enough to say, well, I'm going to eat 1,000 calories, but it's all junky calories. Those junky calories are going to switch on that fat switch.
Isn't that interesting? So you could have even maybe a little less calories, but they're junky calories, and they still can turn on the fat switch.
Absolutely.
Now you hear this, viewers, you're hearing it on Urban Report from Dr. Salter. Okay, so what does a person do? Let's say you just keep on gaining the weight and you're trying to eat better, but you don't really know what to do. Where do you start?
So you've really got to look at the lifestyle first, even before you start talking about the calories you're eating or even what you're eating, because there's something very fundamental like your sleep and your stress levels.
Let's talk a little bit about sleep, because I don't think people really know that connection between weight gain and sleep deprivation. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so we are designed to have around about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So, and at a certain time, not any time of the day. Okay, we're on a circadian rhythm. Okay, we're on a circadian rhythm, a cycle to do with the light. So your body sees the light, and then, you get up in the morning, and then you go through the day, and when the sun goes down, you get tired and you go to sleep. This all to do with hormones and neurotransmitters, okay? So we're supposed to go to sleep before midnight, okay? We're supposed to get our sleep before midnight, and when we're sleeping, we go into different levels of sleep, and as you go into these different levels, we get a metabolic change in hormones that are released. And so those hormones help with energy, so while you think you're resting, the body's working very hard. And so when they've looked at the studies, they found that people who sleep less hours have more weight, more diabetes, more cancer. Their hormones get messed up. So one of the most fundamental things, even for hormone balancing, to say, are you getting enough sleep?
Wow, isn't that interesting? Because so many times, you never think about, I'm not getting enough sleep and I'm gaining weight, but it has to do with hormonal balance.
It's hormonal balance, exactly.
That's the key.
Exactly. And so what happens, see, when you're getting tired to go to bed, what happens? The cortisol is supposed to go down and decrease. The melatonin is supposed to then come up and increase. And so you get tired, you go to sleep. But instead, we're on the computer. We're in different cities that have got, it's like it's broad daylight and it's like midnight, okay? And people are walking around. So what's going to happen now? The cortisol says, oh, I'm supposed to be awake. So the cortisol then, instead of it going down, it begins to rise.
Wow.
When cortisol is elevated, one of its normal mechanisms to do is to raise blood sugar. Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
All right. So you raise in blood sugar, and then eventually you go to bed, but now you've got these levels of blood sugar. The body says, what do I have to do with this? I'm not going to work anywhere. I better lay this down as fat.
Right, because when insulin is increased,
that's right,
it helps to store fat.
It stores fat. It's a fat trigger.
Wow.
Okay, so now cortisol is high, insulin is high, and as it continues, then we get into a state of what we call insulin resistance. It's a state of fat storage. And as hard as you try to say you're going to lose the weight, and you simply keep staying up and not getting the sleep, you're not going to lose any weight. You're in insulin resistance. That weight is not coming off.
Wow.
See, we can't fool the body.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Isn't it amazing how God has created these bodies?
It's fabulous. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. It's so intricate. One thing happens here, it dominoes here. And the body, it's not that it's just doing it's just responding to what you're doing.
Yes.
You stay up late. It says, okay, I need cortisol. I need insulin.
It's responding
to what you're doing.
Wow.
You see, it's responding to what you're doing. So in that setting, just right there, if somebody would just go to bed on time, that would be huge as far as the weight management.
Going to bed on time.
Just go to bed on time and get 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
I'll have to tell you, I wear this this bracelet. It's not a bracelet. It's not a bracelet. Just so nobody gets panicked. Don't send me emails. It's not a bracelet. This is a motion kind of sensor.
Just your activity.
So it's an activity gauge. It lets me know how many steps I've done that day, how much sleep I've gotten. And I said that because my sleep levels have just really gone down a lot because I'm thinking or I'm relaxing or I'm watching something on television, and that keeps you awake, which then causes the hormone. So I see now what you're saying.
Right.
It really makes a lot of sense that if we go to bed, and Ellen White says this too, that sleep before midnight is equal to like 2 hours more than it would after.
Absolutely.
So it's critical. So sleep deprivation is one thing, and you said stress is another.
Stress is huge.
Woo. Okay, let's talk about stress.
Okay, so people say, I just can't get rid of this belly fat, right? Or they just see this this weight gain around the waist, and of course that's a more challenging type of fat. There's different kinds of fat now, so people. We have the obesity, right? And so we talk about the apple shape, and then we talk about the pear.
And we have a graphic on that.
We do have that, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
So look at see the apple shape. This is a problem right here. See this fat? This is metabolically active, inflammatory, dangerous fat. That will cause heart attacks, stroke, cancer, all kind of problems, obstructive sleep apnea. It's just sending out inflammation. That's what it's doing. It's just like a little fire.
Now, isn't it interesting that something like fat, which we think of as just extra pounds,
padding,
right? Extra padding, extra pounds. We look at that as being, it's something we don't want. But now you're telling us that not only is it unsightly, but it's also doing something.
It's dangerous, and I have another graphic about metabolic syndrome.
Oh, okay.
That shows it shows that abdominal fat that is actually, it's like an organ. It's an inflammatory organ. I do blood tests, and I can tell without even looking, I can tell who's got the abdominal fat because you see all these inflammatory cytokines. So you know that it's doing a dangerous job, and so that's really key to get that metabolic syndrome, that abdominal fat gone, which is different from the pear, which has got the fat on the hips, little waist, fat on the hips. Well, you know, you may want to lose that just for cosmetic reasons, but it doesn't have the same effect as this one right here. Okay.
And isn't it interesting that when you go to a physician like yourself, they often say that they measure the circumference.
Right, the waist circumference.
Because that is an indicator of, and it's a risk factor for heart disease.
Right, actually, that is more of an indicator than even blood pressure. It's like the #1 indicator. Just measure the waist circumference. Okay, greater than 40 in men, greater than 35 in women, increases the risk for heart disease.
Isn't that so? Say that again, please, doctor, because they need to hear that.
Greater
Your
than
waist is larger than
40 inches in men and 35 inches in women. There's an increased risk for heart disease. Just take out your tape measure. You don't have to go to the doctor. Just take out your tape measure, and you know right there that we've got an issue and that things have to change.
That is amazing. So this fat that's sitting around that middle, it is not just sitting there, it's causing big problems. It's dangerous.
And one of the problems that causes that, that's what we talked about, that's where we start with stress. Because stress causes this chronic level of cortisol. And cortisol says, let's raise the blood sugar and let's store the fat. Oh, where are we going to store the fat? This is where it goes, all right? So stress management is key to fat management. We've got to deal with the stress. And part of the stress is get enough sleep, right? So we get all stressed so we don't go to sleep.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
But we have to, you know, in the Bible says, was it the sleep of the righteous is sweet, right? So we are physiologically made to sleep, and then if you can't do anything about the stress, why stress? There's no point. So we do all this stuff but we're not changing anything. All we're doing is causing a bunch of inflammation.
Right.
And it's not changing the issue.
Right.
You see, so we have to do that deep breathing. We have to do that relaxation, and we have to exercise, because exercise is a way of diminishing stress.
It really is.
Right?
It really is. And I think that, you know, again, for a lot of our viewers might not be happy about exercising, but there are things you can do, but you have to find something that you like. Do what you like. Like some people love to walk.
Right. Walk, you know what I say, and I used to ask about exercise, but really I've changed it now to physical activity and movement.
Ah.
Just move, right?
Come on, unpack that.
Right,
I love
right.
that.
You know what I'm saying? Just move, because what happens, the studies show, if we sit all day, so people say, you know, I work out for 2 to 3 hours at the end of the day, and I'm not losing all this weight. Well, because you sat for 8 hours all day, and what does it signal? What's the body's signal? Lay down fat. That's what the studies show. When you sit there, it says you're not doing anything. You're just sitting there on your computer. You're not doing anything. The body says, I'm going to lay down fat. You can't work that off at the end of the day. You've been in the gym for like 8 hours, right? So what you do during the day, every 30 minutes to an hour, you get up, do something. Go to the bathroom, walk down the stairs, walk around the hall, go get some water. Just move.
This is so good because so many people are stuck, like me, in an office a lot.
Right.
And when you're at that computer, you know, or you're in a meeting, or you're just sitting, you're saying that you're telling the body, don't do anything, just store some fat because you're not moving.
You're not moving, store it, right? Store it. So imagine if you got up on the hour and did 2 to 3 minutes. That's all. That's not a lot. 2 to 3 minutes. What's 8 hours times 3? That's 24 minutes of exercise you've done by the end of the day.
Come on now, doctor.
All right.
See?
Okay.
That's why you're here.
That's, you know, be physically active. You know, when I travel a lot, stay in a hotel, and the last time I was checked in, and he said, I have you on the 19th floor. I said, no, I want to be able to walk the stairs. You need to put me down lower. I said, and he goes, well, I have the 4th floor. I said, that's good enough. So I took my suitcase to the room because it was heavy, took it to the room. After that, don't use the elevator again until you're leaving the hotel. take the stairs. So because in modern living, we have to force ourselves. We've got to create the activity. Don't take the elevator. Don't take the escalator. Take the stairs. When you see it, take the stairs.
That is such...
Right? And it's so simple.
Yes.
You're brushing your teeth, move when you're brushing your teeth. Okay, walking through your house, walk briskly through your house. Let's do the stuff we used to do. Let's sweep. Let's hang things up. Let's move. That's what gives body activity. And now we sit, we do remote control.
That's true.
Right? The vacuum cleaner.
Or you have the robot.
Now you've got the
robot
vacuum cleaner. That, right?
That's right.
And we don't hang clothes on the line anymore. I remember growing up, we were out there fighting with the clothes, pulling them off the line, right? Now we just throw them into the dryer.
That's true.
Throw them into the wash, take them up, throw them into the dryer, take them up, okay, put them away, right? So activity has just been moved right out at the expense of technology. And we're not saying get rid of the technology, but we have to be mindful of what's happening.
Absolutely.
Right? We have to be mindful, so we've got to say, I've got to be physically active on purpose. I've taken that from Joyce Meyer. She says, be physically active on purpose. You've got to purposely do it. You've got to think about, what can I do to be active? You see?
That's very true. We have to be intentional.
We have to be intentional. And some people say, well, I can't sleep at night. Well, what, you really can't sleep at night? They say, I'm not so tired. Because you haven't done anything all day. Or you didn't sit all around all day. The body's not going to want to sleep if you haven't done anything all day. Right? So you've got to be able to move. So you're tired so you can sleep.
Right.
You know, so that stress management, the sleep, being physically active, now you start triggering those mitochondria. Okay? You start triggering those mitochondria. They say, oh, we have stuff going on here. We've got to increase numbers there so we can burn some calories there. Let's move this. Otherwise, the less exercise you do, the more tired you become.
That is really
right?
true.
You're like, I'm so tired, I don't want to do anything. And that's how I was, because I gained all this weight. You know, when I first got married.
Let's talk about your journey a bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your journey. So were you really thin before?
Oh yeah,
you got married?
I was just like maybe like 140, 150 pounds. You know, slim. You know, I had my first child. Lost all the weight, right back down. I was able to get back into my nice little outfits. I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Had my second child. Oh, my goodness. I ballooned.
Okay.
Okay. It was a little harder. So I didn't quite get back down. But then it was a stressful time of my life. I was in residency. So I was staying up 24, 30 hours, long hours. So now my metabolic switch got changed, you see? You know, so even though I was active, I mean, I would run around the hospital, you know, you're running up and down the stairs, you weren't standing in the elevators, but my switch was changed because my sleep was messed up.
Right.
Do you see? And then it continued, and when I got into private practice, working long hours. I would work until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I'd come home, I'd say, well, I'm so busy during the day, I don't have time to eat. I come home, I'm so tired, I'm tired, but I'm hungry.
Right.
So I'm saying, oh, well, I've got some fruit juice here.
Sugar.
Loaded calories, right? So it's adding insult to injury because my insulin's already high, because my cortisol is high, so now I just poured more on it, okay? And I just ballooned. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Over a period of how much time?
I would say over a 10-year period, and then it accelerated over like a 3 to 5 year period. I think I've got some before and after pictures,
I want to
right?
put one up.
And it was really something. When I looked at myself, you see, look at this.
Yes.
That was unbelievable. When I looked at myself, I started crying. I said, wow, is that me? I'm like, that couldn't be me. How could that be me? It was me. And I'm sitting talking to patients like I'm talking to you, saying, oh, you've got metabolic syndrome. You've got to lose weight. You've got to move. You've got to do this. And as I'm talking to them, I'm listening. I'm thinking, you're talking to yourself, right? This is you that you've got to change, you see. And so then that's when I started my journey You know, I was racing home so I could get to bed on time, right? So I'm like, oh, my cortisol, got to get the cortisol down, need that melatonin to come up, get to sleep, being physically active, not eating late, and getting rid of the empty calories. Now, that's really important.
Let's talk about that.
You know, empty calories.
Such as?
A glass of juice. Now, people say, but it's orange juice.
Oh,
Or it's cranberry juice.
And orange juice, what is the orange juice used for? To raise blood sugar in hypoglycemics.
Thank you.
Right?
So why would you drink an 8-ounce glass of orange juice? There's no fiber in it. So if you want the orange, eat the orange.
Right.
If you want the apple, eat the apple. Don't do the apple juice. Don't do the orange. Even in pediatrics, even in children, we say don't give them straight juice. We say dilute it, dilute it, dilute it. You see? So why would we be thinking that we can do that and we're going to get away with it? It's just empty calories we don't need. And it's easy. A swallow, you got easily 500 calories right there, right? And then you add to that, then people drinking sodas, and then they say, but you know, I don't do the dark sodas, I do the white sodas. It doesn't matter if it's dark or white, right? They've all got 12 teaspoons of sugar, and it's going to give you a bunch of excess calories that you don't need,
That's right, that's right.
And even the artificial sweeteners,
yes,
they actually cause weight gain.
Yes, they have studies that show
that
they actually cause. So if you think that you're getting away with not using sugar, even if you're not, it's the chemicals.
It's the chemicals, and it changes it's a path in the brain. Okay, it's a path in the brain, also in the metabolism, and it's just not healthy for you.
Right.
And again, you know, about weight gain, it's also about toxicity. If the body is toxic, guess where it stores toxins? In the fat.
In the fat. So the toxins are in the fat.
Right. So the body says, okay, you're all toxic. We're eating all this not even real stuff, not even real food.
Exactly.
Right? If the body said, okay, well let me just deal with this. Let me protect this person.
Yes.
Okay, let's just layer that on. Okay, let's lay that on, because that's where the toxins are. And that's why if you're going to lose weight, you've got to do it in a healthy way, so your body's detoxing at the same time. You've got to have those green leafy vegetables. You've got to have the fiber in your beans, your legumes, all those, so that it can take out those toxins as you are shrinking down, or else you're going to be skinny and sick.
And sick, because the body will reabsorb the toxins.
Thank you.
The toxins have to come out.
They've got to come.
You know, Dr. Christine, I know some physicians that say, oh, you don't need to detox. The body naturally detoxes. No, you do need to detox.
You do need detox.
We're taking in toxic air, toxic water, toxic food.
Toxic everything.
Everything.
Right, right. You know, the body, it is fearfully and wonderfully made, and we've got organs of elimination. We've got the skin, we've got the lungs, we have the kidneys, we've got to drink and flush the kidneys, we've got the gastrointestinal tract, we've got the liver, which is fabulous. Okay, but when you have all these toxins coming in, you have to support that process and not keep adding to it. You know, if you're eating chicken that's got a lot of hormones in it, do you know what they do to make those chickens grow so fast? And if you're eating those chickens,
you're going to grow fast.
Exactly, right? And your body has to detoxify. I've had to take little girls off chicken because their menstrual cycles were being messed up.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And the hormone processing happens at the level of the liver. So we have to support the organs of detoxification as we are losing the weight. So it's a comprehensive program.
Yes.
It's a comprehensive approach. You have to look at everything and not just one thing.
And see, that is key too, because so often we'll say, okay, I got to reduce calories. Okay, well, I can't do carbs. Okay, well, I can't do gluten. Okay, and so you take one thing instead of looking at the whole picture, and it's the whole picture, that says, okay, this is your unique profile.
Right.
This is what we need to do.
This is what we need.
And that's the kind of physician you are. I know you are, and I think that's so incredible, because it's unusual to see allopathic physicians who do integrative medicine.
Well, that's what I'm about. And here, I know some people may be feeling, oh my goodness, that just seems such a lot. Well, you do the best with what you've got, okay? And you start somewhere, but you do something. Okay, you say, well, I can't walk 30 minutes a day. you know, I was so tired. Then walk 5 minutes a day, but do it every day.
Right.
Okay? And if you've been going to bed at midnight, okay, say, okay, well, I'm going to try and go to bed at 11:30. Just do something and make a change in the right direction. If you have something that's horizontal like this, even a little change like that, now you're going a completely different direction than if you were like this or even like that. So even a little change, the trajectory will end up being a huge change over time.
And see, that's such a good point, because I think people need to know that you're not expected to do everything cold turkey and just everything perfectly right away.
Right.
Make some little changes.
Little steps.
Increase your water every day. All right, drink a little bit more water.
A little bit more water. When you wake up, so I have bought my little Brita filter. You know, that ones you can put right there, the little single bottle one, right at your bedside. Because if you know that you get up and then forget about that, so then it's right there. It's my reminder. Okay, I need to have all 22 ounces gone by the time I move out of the bedroom, right? So I've got it right there, and I can drink that right away. So you've got to write down your goals, and then implement it. If you just think about it, it's hard just to think about something and implement. You've got to say, okay, I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to walk for 5 minutes. Okay. If you've been eating a lot of meat, you say, well, maybe I'll change to fish. You see, if you've been eating a lot of chips, okay, you say, well, maybe instead of getting a bag of chips, I might get a bag of carrots. You see, so you make these little changes in that direction, and over time, it becomes part of your habit. We don't need to make quick weight loss and then bounce right back. We want it to be a lifestyle.
Exactly.
You see, that's what we're looking for.
We're looking for change that's sustainable.
That's it.
Not the flash in the pan change, but change that's sustainable. You have been so insightful and such a blessing. Thank you so much for being
You are welcome.
with us.
So happy to have been here.
I want you to do more for Dare to Dream. You have to come back and do more
I'll be
for
happy
us.
to do that.
Thank you so much. Well, that's the end of our program for today. You know, Dr. Salter gave us some great tips, some great points, and we can use them and implement them. The Bible says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that is truly, truly so. So make sure that you appreciate this body that God has given you by taking care of it and taking these steps. That's the end of our program for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Join us next time, because you know what? It just wouldn't be the same without you.